1. The first attempt Red Skull and the flawed prototype. In the early 1940s, Dr. Abraham Erskine is working on a legendary serum. According to this formula, any human body that took the serum would reach the peak of all its physical and mental traits, becoming stronger, more muscular, more resilient. At the same time, if the person using it was good, they'd become better; if bad, they'd become worse. Naturally, a bad man ends up using this formula. Johann Schmidt, based in Germany, takes a flawed version of the serum. This man, later known as Red Skull, becomes the series' first case. Since Red Skull was already someone with a corrupted soul, he becomes even worse. The formula strengthens him, but it also amplifies all his negative traits. He starts experiencing the very thing that gives him his name, and his head turns red. This detail is portrayed almost identically both in the comics and in the 2011 film Captain America, the First Avenger. So doesn't Erskine want to try it on a good man too? Of course he does. He moves to America because he knows that if he leaves the formula unfinished, the next person to try it could turn into a monster like Schmidt too. And this is where the story takes its real turn. Do you think it was fair that Red Skull was later cursed to become the one who reveals the path to the Soul Stone? Let us know in the comments. 2. Steve Rogers and the 1943 transformation. We're in the middle of World War II. America launches a secret project called Project Rebirth. Their goal: to use Erskine's formula to create the perfect soldier. They spend a long time searching for this ideal candidate. Erskine doesn't see any of the soldiers proposed to him as fit for the serum. What he wanted wasn't someone strong, muscular, and perfect looking; the serum would provide that anyway. He was looking for someone who was good at heart. But no one could have predicted he'd choose someone as weak as Steve. Steve wasn't just weak, he was asthmatic, scrawny, and constantly rejected. Yet Erskine chose him anyway. The year is 1943. The location, a lab in Brooklyn. Our guy Steve receives the first injection. He enters the capsule. Vibranium rays penetrate his body. And the moment he steps out, he becomes one of the MCU's most iconic images. Steve emerges as a completely different person. Of course, this magical moment doesn't last long, because there will always be those who want to get their hands on such a serum. Right at that moment, a Hydra agent infiltrates the lab, silences Erskine, and tries to steal the formula. The agent is caught, but the formula is destroyed along with him. So both in the comics and in the film, this formula is lost irretrievably. But is the serum truly gone for good? Do you think Steve really was a perfectly good person? Or was he actually the one constantly causing friction with opposing views in the Avengers? Title 3, The Silenced Program. Of course, there were those who wanted to replicate this serum. After Steve's heroics, he vanished into the ice, and with him, logically, went the only person who had used the serum. So a new serum was needed. The American military tries to recreate the formula, but they no longer have Erskine, nor the original formula, only incomplete notes. The year is 1950. The Korean War is underway. A secret program is launched. This time, something is different. The subjects are no longer volunteers. This time, mostly African American soldiers are enrolled in this experimental program without even giving full consent. Actually, this story isn't something the MCU made up later, it's told in detail in the 2003 comic series Truth, Red, White and Black. In this story that the MCU draws from, we meet Isaiah Bradley. And frankly, he's the only survivor of this program. The experimental serum makes him incredibly powerful, bringing his resilience close to Steve Rogers' level. But there's a cost: most of the other soldiers don't survive the process. Isaiah survives, but even this success isn't rewarded. Instead, it's kept secret for years, and he's never given his due. Honestly, this was one of the deepest stories the MCU has tackled, the strongest example in the Marvel universe of turning the serum from a mere power fantasy into something tied to real-world ethical debates. Sam Wilson confronting this truth was genuinely moving. Here's something I have to ask you: who was the best Captain America in the MCU? But the story doesn't end here, because the serum's trail leads somewhere else entirely, somewhere much colder. Title 4, Bucky Barnes. Our guy is Bucky Barnes, Steve Rogers' closest friend. He was lost in an accident during the war and presumed dead. But of course, the truth is far darker. Someone finds Bucky, and it's not good people who find him. According to the comics, it's the Soviets. In the MCU, it's a cell that has infiltrated from within Hydra, and they bring him back to life. In this state, Bucky's arm is severely damaged, so he's fitted with a metal arm. Here's the odd part: Steve stayed young into the present day because he was frozen in an iceberg, but how did Bucky stay young? As far as we know, there's nothing in the serum Steve took that keeps him young, since Steve had aged by the time he returned in Endgame's finale to hand the shield to Sam after going back in time. So how did Bucky stay young? I'll answer that Marvel science explains it as a combination of a partial derivative of the Super Soldier Serum and regular cryosleep, which kept him in the same physical condition for years without aging. Of course, that's not the only thing Bucky went through. His memory is wiped each time he's given missions, and then he's frozen again. So this isn't as clean a version as the original Erskine formula, it's a much darker kind of engineering built on control and obedience. Known as the Winter Soldier program in both the comics and the MCU, it's used in covert operations for decades. Honestly, I think we should have seen Bucky as the villain for much longer in the MCU. I genuinely think his potential was wasted. Do we agree? Here's something really worth pausing on. Steve Rogers' serum made him even more himself. Bucky's version tore him completely away from himself. Two completely opposite outcomes from the same science. Which brings us to this: the serum isn't really about muscle and power at all, it's entirely about whose hands it ends up in. Title 5, The Modern Era, John Walker. Fast forward to the MCU timeline of the 2020s. After Steve Rogers puts down the shield, the government wants a new Captain America. The chosen name, John Walker, a decorated soldier. Sounds good on paper, but it isn't. The serum given to Walker isn't Erskine's original formula, it's a partially reconstructed, unstable version supplied by the character Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. And sure enough, the consequences show up fast. Walker grows stronger but loses emotional control, leading to an outburst in one scene that shocked all the fans. That scene was genuinely dubbed peak unstable serum energy on social media, and it's still circulating as a meme. Around the same time, the Flag Smashers group, led by Karli Morgenthau, uses a next-generation serum stolen from a secret facility. Their goal is different: gaining power in the name of equality. But the cost of the serum is the same here too: uncontrolled power and physical deterioration. Here, Marvel sends us a clear message: every copy made without the original Erskine formula turns out unstable in some way. It's as if the universe is telling us true heroism can't be copied. Do you think that's true, or is it just an easy narrative trick by the writers? I'll leave that open for discussion too. To sum up, from Red Skull's flawed prototype, to Steve Rogers' complete but lost formula, from Isaiah Bradley's overlooked heroism, to Bucky's frozen, controlled version, and on to John Walker and the Flag Smashers' unstable modern attempts, the Super Soldier Serum tells one of the most profound, most human stories in the Marvel Universe. And I think the most striking point is this: this story was never really about power itself, but about who wields it, how, and against whom. Steve Rogers became a legend because he was already a good person, the formula just amplified that. Do you think Marvel should one day fully rediscover this formula, or should Steve Rogers' legend remain forever a one-of-a-kind moment? Write in the comments, let's talk about it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, because the next video is going to be even more interesting.